We just reviewed the DMAIC framework, and now it is time to learn about a few more useful tools including SIPOC, flowcharts and process analysis, how to build flowchart using Excel, and process analysis. So let's start with SIPOC. The acronym SIPOC stands for Suppliers, Inputs, Process, Outputs, and Customers. A SIPOC is a tool that summarizes the inputs and outputs of one or more processes in a table form. I need to clarify the definitions. A supplier in this framework means a person who supplies the inputs to the process. The customer is a person who gets the results of the process, and it doesn't necessarily mean the end consumer of the product or service that the business provides. SIPOC helps define a complex project and is typically employed at the measure phase of the Six Sigma DMAIC methodology. It is similar and related to the process mapping tool, but provides additional details. So why analyze process? Well, it helps increasing the understanding of the process steps. Helps you understanding how the process is causing problems or customer dissatisfaction. It assists in figuring out how the process may differ among location, customers, and regions. Before we move forward, let's review the key process map icons. They are process step, decision, document, preparation, data, manual input, and the end. There are a lot more icons that you can use to describe the process, but this is a good start. A few rules that you need to know, and those rules will help you to prepare better process maps. First, always label your icons. Second, always label your branches. The third, link icons with arrows to indicate the flow. And finally, color code boxes to draw attention to the most important steps. This is an example of a process flow chart. The customer places the order. Then sales department receives and reviews the orders. Next, the order is sent to warehouse. And if all items are present, then we pack and ship the order. However, if some items are missing, we place a back order with purchasing. And when all items are received, then we pack and ship the order. Another way to build process map is using swim lanes. Swim lanes help you to identify who is responsible for the process. In this example, I use several vertical swim lanes. However, some people may prefer horizontal lanes. In the next video, I will show you how to use Excel to build a flow chart. But for now, let's go back to SIPOC tool. Once the flowchart is ready, we can use SIPOC tool to analyze the process in greater details. Some people prefer to start with SIPOC and then build the flowchart. I personally prefer building a flowchart and then using SIPOC to clarify details and update the flowchart if needed. We start SIPOC analysis by listing suppliers and answering questions. Who are the suppliers for the process? What do they provide? What are the major process steps and who does it? What does process deliver to the customer? Who is the customer of the output? And as a reminder, in this case, the customer doesn't mean the end consumer of the product or service. And the final question is, what are the requirements for the deliverables? Let's look at the example. And in this example, the supplier is a customer who places an order. The process step is submitting the order, for example, online order. The output is an order, and the customer of this process is the sales department. The requirements are that an order has no errors and the price includes delivery fees. When sales department gets the order, they become a supplier to the warehouse, and warehouse is now the customer. So supplier is the sales department, input sales order, the process is review the order, and the output creation of shipping order and sending it to the warehouse. Customer requirements are delivery within 3 days. Warehouse now is the supplier. They receive the order, a shipping order, check if all the items are available, and then they ship the order to the customer. If item is not available, then the warehouse places back order to purchasing. Once you've built the process map or SIPOC table, you can use either of those to analyze the cycle time of the process. The cycle time is the process time plus all delays. The typical types of delays are gaps in the process, redundancies, unclear requirements, inefficient process. After you finish SIPOC and process map and recorded cycle times, now you need to identify non-value added steps. The examples of non-value added steps are internal failures, failures that occur during the process and they need to be fixed before the product can be delivered to the customer. External failures, failures that the customers discover and then reject the product or service. Control and inspection. Checking and rechecking a product or service prior shipping to the customer is also a type of non-value added activity. Delays. Steps where the product or service is waiting to go to the next step. Preparation and setup. Steps that are needed to be done before the work on the product or service can be completed. Move. Steps that only involve moving the product or service from one place to another. SIPOC and process mapping are important tools that help in process analysis and serve as a foundation for making decisions about process improvement requirements.